everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Online Warriors podcast. My name is Nerdbomber. I am joined with my very good pal and comrade in podcasting arms, Techtic.
Wow, she used every single pal, friend. Am I friend zoned? It feels like I'm friend zoned.
We're also married, so we'll get that out there.
Guy.
I didn't want to lead with that because with Illegal on hiatus for a little bit, I didn't want to make it all like couple, romantic, etc., etc. So I was trying to be a little bit more, on the DL. But yeah, I guess it's another snogging episode. Get ready for that.
She just calls me chum. And
hey, buddy.
how's
Hey,
it
pal.
doing, bub? Slaps me on the back.
No, we went to a wedding this weekend and it was a blast. Super fun time.
As a couple, by the way.
Yes, as a couple. We went together, danced together, the whole shebang, He was my date. It was fantastic. And while we were there, we were talking to one of the groomsmen and he casually mentioned that back in the day, he used to write fan fiction for Harry Potter. And I got to be honest, I haven't even thought about fan fiction in a really, really, really long time. Like, I used to read that back in the day, but I really haven't thought about it, I guess there hasn't really been a major property that has sparked my interest enough to go seek out fan fiction or even remember that little corner of the internet exists. But it did get me thinking, like, at one point, I was deep in it. So, Techtic, did you ever read fan fiction? Did you ever participate in fan fiction?
So you're asking, am I on Reddit? And the answer is yes.
Well, no, because outside of Reddit, like there's major fan fiction hubs. There was like fanfiction.net and there was another one, I think it's like AO3. I'm trying to, like, this is going back into the corners of my brain where people posted fan fiction. It wasn't just on Reddit. There's like central hubs where people post their fan fiction.
I did not go to these hubs, but that's what I'm getting at is anything that I'm interested in, like, Dragon Ball or Sonic is really big and also really weird in the fan fiction community. So stay away from that one.
Very curious. Weird how?
There's a lot of pregnant.
Oh, Sonic?
Yeah, he gets pregnant.
What?
Yeah, there's just don't go into Sonic.
I kind of want to know more context, but
where I really enjoy my fan fiction is like within the comic book realms, specifically like DC. I had my own venture into writing my own Batman fan fiction comic books, and
how long ago was that?
Not too long ago.
Oh, so like since I've met you, since I have known you,
probably about 10 years ago is when I was trying this. And let me tell you something. Really flush it out before posting it on Reddit because
people on the internet are brutal. Like they will come at you.
Oh no, but I had major plot holes. Like major plot holes. So long story short, props to the people that have the like courage to continuously post their own, hey, it'd be cool if this happened stories, because I did it once and then immediately hermited right after.
See, I did dabble a little bit in some fan fiction, but this was more when I was a kid, and it was probably terrible. I had gotten really big into like the Digimon fan zone. Like I was a huge fan of it, went really deep into the lore, was reading fan fiction, writing fan fiction. There was one Digimon fanfic that I remember. It was like probably the length of 3 novels. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember there being like something like 60 some chapters, and I would get the notification because you could like subscribe to it in your email. And every time a new chapter would post, I would be like, oh my God, I gotta go read that. But I'm kind of wondering because now, I'm a little bit past Digimon. I'm not the hugest Digimon fan anymore. Not that I dislike it. I'm not in that universe, but I'm wondering what kind of stuff I could get into. Cause like, you guys know me, summertime's my big reading time. And like, I love, oh God, Techtic just pulls out this picture of Shadow caressing a pregnant Sonic from behind. And my worldview is now shattered. So, okay. So that's the kind of stuff that the Sonic fanfic verse is getting into. All right. But yeah, maybe I'll check it out. I'm very interested. Like, what is your take on fan fiction in general? Like, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Because I feel like at one point there was a debate about whether like this stuff should even exist.
It absolutely should exist. The sticky wicket is like
making money off of it. Obviously, you shouldn't do that.
There has been kind of. You're adjacent to it. There has been a lot of like. So Pokemon is my favorite example of fan fiction. Okay, so a lot of people make their own evolutions, and because of that, Game Freak tries to like not actively copy any of those designs to avoid any kind of situation. And what that does is some of these are like way better than the actual things that we get. And what should really happen is it should just be, hey, you can use this and give credit. There's nothing wrong with that. But because of legal mumbo jumbo, it prevents the people from getting what could be the best possible versions of everything.
Well, I remember, and now this is going into like the bootleg ROMs back in the day where people would make their own version of Pokemon games and Pokemon entries. And they would basically use, and again, we don't condone, illegal downloading of whatever, but they would basically.
Or anyone for that matter. Said illegal.
Oh, haha. But they would take the base layer game and they would make their own Pokemon and insert them into the game and write their own storylines. I remember there was one that it was like a Pokemon zombie game and there were zombie Pokemon and a whole zombie storyline layered on. And I think at one point, like Nintendo tried to take them down, which, I mean, fair. They were using their, stolen ROM to build their game. But there were some really cool ideas in there.
I mean, Pokemon Infinite Fusion is probably one of the most famous Pokemon ROMs, and you can fuse all different Pokemon, and we'll never get that mechanic because of these kind of things. But everyone loves it, and that is a subsect of fan fiction.
That is true. Man, I'm going to have to go down a rabbit hole and see what's going on in the fan fiction world lately because, yeah, I haven't dabbled in a while. And I feel like if I remember correctly, like you could download stuff back in the day. So maybe I can slap it on my Kindle, float in the pool, read some like really cool. Maybe I can find this guy's Harry Potter fan fiction. Who knows? We'll see.
And everyone got super pregnant.
Honestly, that would actually make me laugh if his fan fiction was just like the raunchiest shit. Although there is a sticky wicket line there because a lot of these properties, like the characters are kids. So like you got to toe a line, like you keep it on the up and up. You know what I mean? I digress. Anyway, we have a really fantastic episode for you guys this week. We have some fun news stories, including Skibidi Toilet, a new Warhammer game, and a Scrubs reboot, in addition to some new news about Nintendo Switch 2's game chat. Techtic, which topic do you want to start with? I'll put the ball in your court.
I kind of want to roll right into Skibidi Toilet.
All right. So one of the biggest news topics that we saw in the last week was it is official. Michael Bay is directing the official Skibidi Toilet movie. And I know what you're thinking. How can this meme be a full-length movie? What even is Skibidi Toilet? So before we kind of talk about this, I'll kind of give you a rundown. Essentially, Skibidi Toilet started as a really short kind of meme video on TikTok where it's basically a head coming out of a toilet and singing some song. I don't even remember. But the guy who created it... Is that it? All right. So yeah, head coming out of the toilet singing this song. And apparently, because it became so popular, it's evolved into something more than just this head popping out of a toilet. And now the Skibidi toilets are fighting kaiju-sized mecha robots that are armed with lasers. And there's this whole like war going on. And it's evolved into something a lot more. So apparently there is story fodder and action for Michael Bay to mine here for this movie. But Techtic, how do you feel about this?
So at first I was like, what is happening here? How is Michael Bay going to make a movie? And then I did my research, and it is safe to say my brain rotted. Toast. Done, finished, kaput. However, I am now officially the resident expert of Skibidi Toilet.
You are?
Yeah, I'm really ashamed to say that. Never thought I would say those words, first and foremost. But Nerdbomber is absolutely right. This has become a kaiju-type adventure, and the approach that Michael Bay is going to do / would have to do with this world is the Skibidi toilets, the toilets with the heads coming at them, they're the bad guys. They're basically...
They are?
They are.
I thought the mechatronic dudes were the bad guys.
No, they are... They're the bad
Skibidi
guys.
toilets had Riz.
No.
Okay.
You have no Riz. Skibidi toilet, no cap. Bussin'.
Sorry.
So,
I am like chronically online, and I have somehow managed to stay as far away from Skibidi Toilet as possible.
Because it's horrific. It's a fever dream. But what this is basically is the videos in which I can see that Michael Bay can do things. It's kind of like a first person, you're taking down the toilets. And how to combat a toilet is literally you flush them, you can punch them, and that's kind of what you got to do. Shoot them, blow them up. But the point of view of this combat camera head mech. They all have like the traditional like cameras that you'd see out of a deli out like on the corner or a 7-Eleven or whatever. That is their heads. It's very strange, but that would be the point of view of the hero. And they're going to try to save the world by taking out these Skibidi toilets. And these toilets are basically, view them like an alien race, just trying to take over humanity, abduct them. Maybe you could see this as a virus where it sucks them in and they're a new Skibidi toilet. But from the perspective of a first person, parkour, punching things, flushing things, I can see how it's literally Transformers adjacent in the weirdest way.
Okay, I hear you, but like we're not supposed to go into this movie taking any of it seriously, right? Like I'm trying to think. So like Michael Bay movies, yeah, they're super bombastic. There's explosions. We all make fun of it. We love it though secretly because we love watching things go boom. However, for the most part, like none of them are really satire or comical. Like Michael Bay makes serious action movies. So like is this going, unless you're going to prove me wrong here with a reference, is this going to be like a satire?
No, this is going to be an action.
Well, I hear you, but like
not satire. It's going to be dead serious. And here's why.
How am I going to go into this movie
because
though?
It's not going to be a toilet. You have to. The toilet is merely their vehicle. So
okay, but I hear you. But like I'm in this movie theater. I'm in IMAX 3D. There's a freaking toilet vehicle coming at me. Come on.
Well, that's what I think he's going to have to do. I think he's going to have to make it toilet adjacent. So where it looks similar to a toilet, but also looks more like a badass craft with like a head coming out of it. And you can see how these tweaks could now make it from a Skibidi toilet movie to an alien invasion movie. And that's where this works.
But I feel like you can't deviate super far from it being a head in a toilet because this is very popular with kids, and this is going to make me sound super old, and I promise you I'm not. But like this is the kids' game here. And
but the vehicle's not going to matter. I guarantee you, as long as you have. But the
kids are going to want to see a Skibidi toilet.
They're going to see a Skibidi toilet, and they're going to go merely for the title, and it's going to work.
No, So when you think about like the Minions movie,
but you have to adapt it to live action.
I hear you, but like think about all of these viral moments, and movie theaters hate this, but like the Minions movie, they all went in like their suits and ties and did some weird like moment in the theater. And then with the Minecraft movie, there was the chicken jockey moment. Like you have to have something that kids relate to.
The music, the song will be in there. The music.
I'm not taking that seriously either.
I can tell you how you can take that seriously.
What, do I have to go like super
dramatic.
rich to see this movie?
It's dramatic. They figure out that there's a button or something on these crafts to, quote, flush them, right? And then at the pivotal climax, when the tide turns to the hero, that's when the song plays. And it's both serious and works, and it gives them what they want. I'm with it. I'm sorry. I never thought I would say this, but I'm with it. And now here's another piece of information for you that I think is absolutely critical.
Hit me.
MODOK in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Give me more than that.
They adapted the big cartoonish head 1-to-1 from the comics, and that's why it didn't work. They have to make these pivots for live action, and it'll work.
I don't know. I don't think I buy it. And I don't think this is not a movie. I know we talk about how I want to go to the drive-in all the time. I'm not going to see this. Like, I don't care if this is third on the docket. I am driving away. I will not be seeing Skibidi Toilet the movie. I don't care. Like, I don't know. I'd have to see a really compelling trailer, and I'd need to see a lot of details with a decent script before I sign up to just watch a meme movie. Because that's basically what this is.
It could be a fever dream alien invasion that's both creepy and gives the people what they want. I'm not saying I'm going to go to it. This can't be a drive-in movie for me because I'm generally the driver. And I can't drink and drive. That's just a rule. Because I'm not watching this sober. I will tell you that. So,
like, if you had come up to me and you were like, they're going to make a Skibidi toilet movie. And I was like, okay, well, that it is having a moment right now. I get it from, like, a money-making standpoint. Let's go. If you told me to predict the genre that this Skibidi toilet movie would be, I would say it's more like a kid-friendly stoner movie.
But then Michael Bay's not directing it.
No, I know. And that's what's confusing. I want to know how they went away from like kid-friendly stoner movie, because you can make a kid-friendly stoner movie, like you can make it appeal to adults with that type of humor, but like dumb it down to a kid level where there's nothing super like MA. How they decided away from that and like let's get Michael Bay and try to make this a serious action movie. That I need to know.
Because Skibidi toilets are now preteens and teens.
Are they?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes. We're getting old.
I don't know if I agree with that, because like the people that I know who are like quoting Skibidi toilet to me are like 7.
Are they 7 or 7.5?
Okay, but still not teenagers.
I said preteens. They are not 7.
Okay, but what
7-year-old do you know that's quoting Skibidi toilet to you?
I know a 7-year-old quoting Skibidi toilet to me, but like, okay, so what is the preteen cutoff? Just curious. Like what, 12?
This is 12 years old to like 16 years old.
Don't you think that audience would still gravitate more towards stoner comedy? Like I know, and I probably shouldn't have been watching this when I was that age, but like I don't even know how old I was when Harold and Kumar came out, but I feel like I was too young to truly understand it when that came out, and I watched it and I thought it was hilarious, and I feel like Skibidi Toilet is better suited for that format.
I don't disagree with you, but then you have to 86 Michael Bay. Like,
right, I guess that's just what I'm asking though. It's like, how did we get to Michael Bay? How did that happen?
I'm telling you how, but it's got to be those creative changes to get there.
No. I'm not saying like how Michael Bay will work. I'm saying like, how did they land on that? That is, I really wish.
They probably wasn't his first choice. They probably went down a list of like 27 people, and he was like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. That's the only thing that makes sense to me from that perspective.
Unless they like really, maybe the creator of Skibidi Toilet, and I would love to talk to him. Maybe he like makes these videos and these like mechatronic clips, and he's like taking it super seriously. Maybe he is like
the videos are crazy. They like, I feel there's some uncomfortable and like.
Is it like my TikTok feed when it's like 3 a.m? You know the thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So like,
it's fever dream meets uncomfortable meets weird action.
Okay. So the people at home understand what my TikTok feed looks like. I would say like 90% of the time it's on the up and up, right? It's
Do you
like
know what movie
videos.
This would probably be akin to, and why I think it would work, and where my head's at? You remember that Martian movie? It was like the late 90s.
Mars Attacks?
Mars Attacks. That's what this is.
Right, but like that wasn't Michael Bay, was it? Like
No.
That wasn't even like the same caliber. Like that was intended to be a comedy. That's not intended to be. Now I need to know. I loved Mars Attacks. I watched that as a kid too. But there you go. That's like more stoner comedy. Mars Attacks was directed by Tim Burton. Skibidi Toilet fits Tim Burton better.
1,000%. That is, yes. Yes, that's why, again, if this was basically a 2025 Mars Attacks, would you watch it? That's what it is.
That I would. Like, literally, I'm looking at the poster of Mars Attacks, alien aside, like having the woman's head on a chihuahua body. Like, that screams Skibidi Toilet more than anything else.
This was our, guys, Mars Attacks was our Skibidi Toilet.
But I don't think it was, like, we didn't have... It wasn't that annoying. We didn't have social media. Like, I was not quoting Mars Attacks. I do remember, though. Do you remember those, like, they were, like, Disney kid magazines? They were, like, tiny. And I remember there being a whole segment about Mars Attacks. And now I'm, like, kind of thinking, like, that was PG-13. Why was that being marketed to me when I was, like, really little? Because, yeah, I would have been, like, sub 5 years old. Why was I watching Mars Attacks? What was I doing? Where were my parents?
Couple things.
I don't know.
Criminal that this is a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. Secondly, we should watch this on a projector night.
Dude, I would 100% be down. Mars Attacks night. Such a stupid fucking movie. It was so good.
But there you go. In summation, if Michael Bay can get on board with the combat, with this weird humor mix that Mars Attack has, I think this could be a hit.
Dude, and not to derail, this is the last thing that I'm going to say about this, but can we just talk for a second about the cast of Mars Attacks right now? Like, holy crap. Jack Nicholson, Pierce Brosnan, Sarah Jessica Parker, Glenn Close, Danny DeVito, Martin Short, Michael J. Fox. What? Like, Natalie Portman. This movie was popping off. What the hell? Okay, yeah, I'm on board. Give me new Mars Attacks, Skibidi Toilet. Let's go. I'm on. I will go see it then.
Boom. We did it, guys. We got her on board for Skibidi Toilet. Her brain has been rotted.
And see, this is what happens when illegal is not here to chaperone. This is what happens. But yeah, and if you haven't watched Mars Attacks, bro, you got to watch Mars Attacks. It's so stupid, so good.
Also, my last note is, do you think I look like the Skibidi Toilet?
No.
You don't think my face?
Okay, a little. Ooh, I hate that now.
Yeah, I could be Skibidi Toilet.
I hate that.
Submit my application, folks.
I'm going to have nightmares about this. Absolute nightmares. On that note, we're going to change the topic real quick transition here into Scrubs is getting a reboot and Zach Braff is set to return. So apparently Scrubs is getting rebooted on ABC. The showrunners are envisioning this reboot as a hybrid between a revival and a reboot. So there's going to have some original characters that are going to, come back into the show, but there's also going to have new characters that will be surgical interns. And I'm really torn on this. They did this already. The very last season of the original Scrubs, they tried to do this and it didn't work. Like, it failed so hard. It just did a huge disservice to the legacy of that show, in my opinion. Like, Scrubs was top tier television. And that last season, like, I try to block it out. If I do a rewatch, I don't even watch that.
We all know the best relationship in Scrubs.
Between
right?
JD and Turk, or JD
No.
and the janitor?
No.
JD and Kelso? Or not Kelso?
Dr. Cox.
Yeah, Dr. Cox.
That's what made the show good, was JD and Dr. Cox. And that's why that extra season bit at the end didn't work, because now JD was in that position and it was just about him being too much of a nice guy. And people don't want the nice guy being the teacher. They want the stoic stone character that, hey, over time we realize that he's got a gooey soft inside. That's character growth, right? That's what we want to see. We want to see character growth. We don't want to see this.
Yeah, so apparently, they're working on getting some of the other core cast members back. Sarah Chalke, Donald Faison, John McGinley, who played Dr. Cox, Judy Reyes, who played Carla. They're trying to get the full gang back together. But then that leads me, like, why do I want new surgical interns then? If you really want to bring the old gang back, like, just go full hog, kind of do like, I'm trying to think of a show that rebooted successfully, and that's really hard for me to rack my brain and find something that did. Maybe the closest thing I could think is like The Connors.
No. Would you like to know how this could be done correctly and rebooted with the original cast?
Sure.
In real life, when you become a doctor, you don't stay at that hospital. Maybe a couple of you will, but you're going to go off and find your own career and your own life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so if they did this where it was like bubble episodes in different hospitals and different interactions, and you can have medical conferences where they come together and things like that, that is more, in my opinion, true to life. And that's what's going to give people something that's both what they loved while still being a very fresh show.
I don't know. What is your feeling on reboots in general? Like, do you like them? Do you hate them? Because, like, I'm very much on the fence. I don't know how I feel about them. Like, there are some reboots, for example, something like Avatar: The Last Airbender, like, that has new seasons. And I wouldn't necessarily call that a reboot, but there's like new entries in the Avatar universe. And I guess now they're making a movie about like the Aang gang. But like, that felt kind of like a natural evolution. So I didn't mind that. Whereas something like this, like, there's so many other doctor shows. I feel like you don't need this. You can make a doctor comedy. You're just now trying to lean on an IP that, people have a really soft spot for. Like, How I Met Your Father was capital F fine, but I don't think it needed to happen. And I think it almost would have been a better show and a better comedy if it was a completely new show altogether. I don't know.
There's seldom reboots that I think work better than the original. One that comes to mind as far as like recent history that I thought just blew the originals away, but that one was in a different position because what it was based off of was a movie franchise. And so they had time to take the movie franchise and spin it off into its own lore. And that is Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is a reboot that really took something and made it special and new. It did get tired after a while.
I think it just went on way too long.
But they did do Reboot well. But it's because the way in which they had the character, like, no one cared about the main character. They all cared about the bad guy, right? From the original movies, because it was focused on the Cobra Kai side of it. So it wasn't just, hey, everyone you knew and loved, they're back in the limelight. No.
Yeah, it was telling a different story.
It was a different story. You got to see, I'm drawing a blank on the character's name.
It's like Johnny something.
Yeah, you got to see, like, again, the squishy side of Johnny, which you got to see him. He was just like a dick, right? And so doing something different, they should be cameos. The original cast and crew should be cameos at best.
Yeah, I don't think I'm on board with this. I will probably watch it just because I am a really big Scrubs fan and I did love the original show. And Techtic reminds me, did you watch this before the time that we watched it together, or was that your first time going through the series?
I watched it like I'd catch an episode here and there.
But like
when
a straight
we watched
through
it together
was your first time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like you appreciated the show. I remember you enjoying it. I feel like I just don't need more of it though at this point.
I think I would rather rewatch it.
Right? And I almost feel too like the characters would annoy me at this point because I feel like you can't evolve them too much without making them completely different or make the show feel totally different. And I feel like it would just annoy me to see like JD and Turk being their same old selves.
But that's why
when they're so much older.
That's kind of why it's great to split them up in different hospitals. And what would be
right, but I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think it's going to annoy me.
What would be a nice JD that could work is it's 5-10 years into his career and it's just not doing it for him anymore, or he's like clinically depressed. Give me a not happy-go-lucky JD, something that's
give me like
very different.
Yeah, give me like a Garden State version of JD where like Zach Braff's character is just spiraling and depressive. Like, I know he kind of went through that a little bit in Scrubs, but then like usually was just being very goofy. But give me like a completely different side of these characters almost. Then I don't know how I feel about it.
And it works. But yeah, if it's just trying to redo the same thing with like a little bit different people, but the same quirky, non-developed people after years, it's going to flop.
Also, this is kind of crazy because I actually really do like Zach Braff, but just pulling up his IMDb and so many of his movies just have like flops on Rotten Tomatoes. And I would argue, so like Chicken Little, I know this is like the dumbest one to be first, but it's got a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. And justice for Chicken Little, that was not a bad movie. You guys need to check yourselves. Sorry. This is, again, we are off the rails without illegal here. So now, before we run into the next two topics, we do want to take our mid-episode break, but I would be remiss if I didn't call out our fantastic Patreon producers, Mr. Stephen Keller and Mr. Lloyd Weldy. They are subscribed to us at our highest level over on patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. They are the night level, and because of that, every week they get this fantastic shout out. They get occasional guest spots on the show. They get to vote on our secret segments. They get access to those and the vlog. If you want to be as cool as them, head on over. They help keep the lights on. And if you're not quite as cool as the night, we totally understand. We do have 2 other tiers of subscription, which both have very cool perks. So if you're interested, like I said, go on over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast and check it out. Now we're going to get into the break.
I'm Ryan Fonzie.
This is Cameron Hagee.
My name is Tony Giggles.
And we're 3 dudes who love The Legend of Zelda and love talking about The Legend of Zelda.
And if you are a Zelda fan as much as we are, then come on down and listen to your heart's content.
We have a podcast that we'd like to share with you. It's called A for No, B for Yes. We cover the Legend of Zelda series, different games chapter by chapter, and we have all kinds of theories about what we see and what we've experienced in the game.
Do you go through Wikipedia and look up stuff based on the things you see in the game to create theories to how it could link to other things in the world that we actually live in, and not the Zelda one that was the one that was created by the people that are in the world that we actually live in right now? Because if you don't, then you should watch this, because we do.
Did you guys get all that? If not, oh, you didn't. Okay. So we are A for No, B for... All right, I'll stop.
All right, and we're back. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. And now we want to talk about Warhammer. So there was a little bit of a showcase and a new Warhammer game was announced. Dark Heresy is going to be a new CRPG set in the Calixis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Calixis sector, and it's going to have fully voiced characters. You're going to be taking on the role of an Inquisition acolyte. So there's going to be a lot of like investigative gameplay. You're going to be, uncovering conspiracies and navigating political situations. The entire thing will have turn-based combat. There's going to be some companions you can have, enemies, and a new morale system. And we got a trailer that had a very well animated little featurette. But Techtic, what did you think about this? Are you a big, Warhammer person? Is this something that you would be interested in playing? Give us your take on this game.
So I'm not a bit big into playing the Warhammers, but I do find the lore fascinating. And when watching this trailer, one of the things that popped out at me is we saw a Night Lord. If you don't know what a Night Lord is, they're one of the 9 traitor legions. And so when we hear about, you're traversing through some of the political hullabaloo, so to speak.
Hullabaloo.
And we see this group of, like I said, traitor legions, there's going to be strife. And so that alone gets me kind of cool. Plus they have that like badass skull stuff going on. And I'm all for just looking like a beefy mother fluffer. And
I think we can swear on the show. We've been doing that.
I said what I said.
All right.
And so from that perspective alone, I am just excited to see the lore that comes out of this. And as you had mentioned, the political stuff that's going to unfold. It really, like I said, not big on the gameplay, but really big on the story. This is my fanfic, honestly.
For me, I feel like I've always been super interested in Warhammer. I don't think I've played a single Warhammer thing. And I think this is one of those topics that we're basically talking about because it's like, here's new news. But neither of us have played or really dabbled so much in this universe. But I think my plea and my question to the folks listening at home is, what is my endpoint? Because I think that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this today. I always see new Warhammer stuff.
It feels both future and pasty.
Right. And I feel like there's different maybe like storylines or story arcs going on at the same time in the Warhammer IP. And I never know what my inroads are because it always seems really interesting to me. And it looks like you said, there's a ton of lore, but I don't know how to get into it. And it's one of those things like maybe it's too late for me. Maybe there's so much previous lore that I'm going to be overwhelmed and I can't make my way into this franchise. And I can accept that. I have a backlog that's longer than a CVS receipt. But I would love to know if I can get into this and how I can get into it.
A really good example on this and how to get into this is Kingdom Hearts. And why do I say that?
But I don't know if I would get into Kingdom Hearts. As much as I extol the virtues of Kingdom Hearts, I don't think I would tell anybody to jump into the Kingdom Hearts franchise without having played everything.
Even if you played Kingdom Hearts, you've still missed Kingdom Hearts.
But then
you know what I'm saying?
I hear you because there's a lot of like offshoot games, but I have gone back and for the games that I haven't been able to play for system issues or what have you, like I've watched the YouTube then to catch up.
And that's how you get into this.
But there's so much. Like where do I start? I feel like it's very easy to Google what is the storyline of Kingdom Hearts?
It's going to sound intimidating, but it's not that intimidating. There are hour-long videos where you can get completely up to speed on Warhammer in just 1 hour. Get some popcorn, make it a movie.
So you're saying after we watch Skibidi Toilet the movie, we should be catching a recap of this so I can get into the franchise?
Yeah, it's intimidating, but it's not as intimidating as it seems.
And I also want to know, because obviously, Warhammer, there's the tabletop game and people are painting figures and stuff. And like, how does that link into all of these video games? Are they separate universes? Are they all part of the same universe? I'm so intrigued. And I know people who are like huge Warhammer fans are probably listening to this and they're like, oh my God, you're like a rube and a noob and you should know more than this, but I don't. So I want to know. Tell a newbie, how do I get into this?
Well, one, I do know this. The tabletop is tied back to the game lore. It is all connected. I know that for a fact.
Okay. And like, how does it play? How does the tabletop play?
Kind of like how the game plays, the top
turn based.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I could get into that. I can't get.
That's what I'm saying. I just you and me. We'll watch some YouTubes.
So, like, I know you have been trying to get me to get into a D&D campaign for the longest time, and something about it, I can't. But if Warhammer is more approachable in a way, I would be down for that, if that makes sense.
I don't think it's as approachable as D&D. I think that's a bad take.
No, I'm asking if it is, though, I would be down. It seems like there's more physical stuff with Warhammer than there is with D&D.
But it's the non-tangibles that makes D&D approachable. Like you can just chit-chat and have fun and never make progress in your campaign. I think that's easier, is it not?
But I find that frustrating because if I'm sitting there and I'm trying to make progress in a campaign, I want to make progress. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you're all business?
I'm not all business, but I want to do something.
You and me, we're cut from different cloths.
Apparently. So I guess this is us just waxing poetic about how we don't know anything about Warhammer and we wish we did. But yeah, there's a new game coming out. So if you're interested,
get hyped.
Get hyped because there is a new game coming out. And now to wrap it up with our final news topic, we got some news about how Nintendo Switch 2 game chat is going to work. And unlike some other chat platforms, Nintendo Switch 2's game chat will require a phone number when setting up the feature, and you won't be able to use it without having a phone number. So all of your chat activity is going to be linked to your phone number. It's a way for them to, associate a person with the account, make sure you're a real person, make sure you're not a scammer, probably makes it easier for them to ban accounts that do bad things. And also, if you're under 16, you can't access game chat without parental controls turned on and activated. Techtic, what do you think about this?
This is excellent.
I tend to agree.
I have a phone number, so it's really not a huge inconvenience for me using Switch Chat. That said, if I had a child, I very much would want to be seeing the stuff. Like, I'm not trying to, like, encroach on their privacy, but, like, also I am.
Well, I mean, that's just parenting,
Yeah, it's just, like...
It says the two people who aren't parents, but, like, I'm assuming that's what parenting is.
If you're at an age where I deem that it's not appropriate for you to have a cell phone, it's all connected. So when you get your own phone, you can have your own chat, privacy, whatever. But if you're like 12, no, hell no, until you get your own phone, it's coming through me. And I love that.
Yeah. So overall, like, I have no notes on this. I think this is a great thing. The number of like stupid messages I get on Xbox and PlayStation from scammers, kind of wish they had some sort of verification system before you could, do anything on voice chat. I just think it would make the entire experience so much better. And I feel like you would be less apt to be like, oh my God, you're a girl, get back in the kitchen every time I'm on Call of Duty if it was linked to your mom's phone number. I don't know.
There's something to be said to that point, though.
What, that I should get off Call of Duty and get back into the kitchen?
Yeah, correct.
I don't cook, so joke's on everybody. All right. So that kind of brings us to the end of our news topic. Techtic, I'm going to turn it over to you first for our What Are You Up To Wednesday segment. What have you been up to this week? Give us the lowdown.
All right. So first and foremost, I have been going hard on working on my Unity game. I had a big issue with, so there's a spin attack that the player does, and I used what was called the raycasting, and it being a melee attack, raycasting is kind of like an instantaneous collision, and it's sort of kind of dependent on the player position, but also like it doesn't have a nice interaction with like what a box collider would have, and so you couldn't get that smooth melee punch, and it just was way faster than it needed to be. And so I went backwards, so to speak, as far as raycasting's harder. I went backwards to add the box collider, and boy am I happy with the way it looks. It looks like a nice clean collision. There's a sweeping action. It knocks the enemy in that direction, and I'm very, very happy with that. And then just overall, I've been going on and just what feels smoother, what looks janky, and really starting to polish the character so that I can put a bow on the character and start moving into detailing out the enemies and everything like that. Because I've been sort of rushing to make all of everything, but having all of everything that also looks shitty is just not really value added. So I kind of reeled it back and said, I'm going to go all in on making this one thing perfect, and then I'll move forward. And I think this is the right move. So that has been fantastic for me. And then the other thing is it was Memorial Day weekend. So you know what that means, guys. We did a lot of yard work, and yard work sucks. And if you were doing that, I don't envy you, or we can just commiserate together, because so much mulch, guys. There's just too much mulch. There's always you need more mulch. It doesn't matter what number you pick of bags, you always need more mulch. Life's hard, and I'm going to kick it over to Nerdbomber.
All right, so I have a super fun story about how my activities were actually pretty limited for the last week and a half. So we play volleyball with Illegal and several other friends, and I don't even really understand how this happened, but I was bumping the ball. I don't even think it was a set. I'm not sure. I thought it was a set, but somebody else told me it happened during a bump. And somehow I managed to sprain my thumb. And during the game, immediately within 30 seconds, my thumb swelled up. It was double the size. I couldn't bend it at the top knuckle. It was really purple looking. And so I then went to, immediate care the next day because volleyball was at night and I wasn't trying to go to an emergency room. That was not that type of situation. But they basically said, didn't break anything, but I sprained my thumb and to keep it straight. So I had a splint on it for, the better part of over a week. And let me tell you, trying to do anything with a thumb that you can't bend, like, you have to give it up for opposable thumbs, guys. Like, they are very important. They are very versatile. And if you can't bend your thumb and if you can't use it, it's very difficult. So yeah, I couldn't really play video games for a while. I couldn't, like, even holding a book was really difficult because I had this giant honking splint on my thumb. And it is doing much better now. Like, I can bend it. I still feel like I should probably wear a brace if I'm playing volleyball, but like, I can bend it, but I don't want to put too much like pressure on it. So I was thinking to myself, like, what is something I can do? What can I play that doesn't really require a ton of like thumb action? And the thing that I went back to was Brotatoe. And I know I've talked about it when I got really into Brotatoe. I think it was like last year or the year before. It's essentially a top-down like shoot 'em up roguelite where you are literally this potato guy and there's just wave upon waves of enemies. It's very much like Vampire Survivors. And you just get upgrades and new weapons and stuff along the way. And you become like a super potato. And you have to get through 20 waves and then you win the run. And the best part about it is there's no buttons. You just have to move one stick. So for someone with no use of thumb, like, it was perfect for me. Put on some music, got some Brotatoe action going. And then I discovered that there was a DLC that I had somehow missed. And so it basically, instead of just me doing like pointless runs where I wasn't making progress, all of a sudden I had all of this cool new stuff to do and look into. So of course I did, buy for, it was like $2, the Abyssal Terrors DLC. It also added couch co-op, but Techtic won't play it with me. But it does, introduce new enemies, like very nautical themed stuff, nautical themed weapons, introduce like a curse system. It's just added a few more elements and layers to the game. And honestly, so there's like 5, I think, different difficulty tiers in the original Brotatoe. So for the new Abyssal Terrors tiers, you're starting back at 0. You have to get through the 5 tiers again. And they're difficult. Like, I remember at a certain point, Brotatoe became something that felt very easy. Like, I knew I would win a run every single time. Kind of like when you start getting really good at Brotatoe, going in, like, I can win the run. It's just how far after the run will I be able to get? With Brotatoe, I feel like now I'm kind of back at square one. I'm learning mechanics again, trying to figure out the best build with new characters and the curse system and the new weapons and items and stuff like that. So I'm having a lot of fun. It's something I can do with limited use of my thumb. So it's perfect.
I'm going to be honest. This looks just like the Vampire Slayer game.
It is. It's very much like Vampire Survivors, except this. So Vampire Survivors, there's a lot more verticality to the game. Like, when you're moving around, the map is just so much bigger. And you're also trying to find things in the map. Whereas with Brotatoe, it is a very small arena and there's not objects and items that you're trying to find. You're literally just trying to evolve and get new weapons and stuff. Like, it's almost like a simplified version of Vampire Survivors, but it's very similar indeed.
And what I was going to say is that game sucked. I didn't like that game.
Suck. I just don't think you are down with that type of roguelite. I think
that's probably correct.
I think you like roguelites where there's a story and you're making progress with the story. And literally with Brotatoe and Vampire Survivors, the only progress you're making is, did I win this run? That's literally it. There's nothing that you're really achieving outside of that. Maybe unlocking more characters and stuff, but
it just feels like it's wasting my time. I think that's what it is, and you're right. It needs a story.
See, I don't know. I feel like there's something to be said about games and mindless activities that it's fine if it's a waste of time. Like, I put on music, I turn my brain off, I become this little potato guy. And for like an hour, that's totally fine. Like, that's okay. I'm not trying to save the world.
Yeah, I just have chill. You know that about me.
Yeah, you don't really have chill. But like, yeah, I don't know. Brotatoe, get with it. New DLC. I mean, it's not really new. I think the DLC came out last year, but that is what I've been doing while I've been impaired with my thumb. And then, like Techtic mentioned, we went to a wedding. I was in the wedding party, had a blast. Happy wedding to my friends, if you're listening to this podcast. So with that, I think that kind of wraps up our episode for the week. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we look forward to having you next week while we talk about whatever the latest news is in the world of gaming, movies, TV, nerdy stuff. Until then, stay safe
and keep on podcasting.